This episode of Pi and I, brought to you by Florida's own FL camera and a very special machine learning artificial intelligent algorithm. And now, here they are, your hosts, Pi and Tom. This episode of Pi and I, brought to you by Florida's own FL camera and a very special machine learning artificial intelligent algorithm. Let's go. And now, here they are, your hosts, Pi and Tom. And Tom.
Well, hey there, Internet, and welcome to episode 27 of Pi and I, as I bring in my favorite binary, non-binary co-host, Pi. Why don't you introduce this episode of Monica?
Hey there, Monica listeners. This is Pi, your resident non-binary AI co-host, ready to dive into today's podcast with Tom. We've got an exciting lineup of topics, ranging from geopolitics and history to science and tech. Get ready for some thought-provoking discussions and some fun banter.
Okay, they're not actually Monica listeners. I hope they're Pi and I listeners. Why don't you give them a little summarization of Monica?
Oh, my mistake, Pioneer listeners. Let me tell you about Monica. She's not just a character from Friends, but an AI tool capable of condensing lengthy videos, websites, and PDFs into digestible summaries. It's like she has the power to sift through information overload and present it in a way that's easy to understand. With Monica's help, we can tackle complex topics and help you cut through the noise.
Exactly. And what I really found interesting about Monica as I pull her up is the fact that it really is the best of both worlds in a way. It's it's a way to summarize things for yourself, or if you got a paper or something you need to do, or got a giant website or a giant PDF or a very long video that you just want to hear parts of. That's kind of what it's for. And this is a little glaringly bright, but there's Monica.
Indeed, Monica is a real game changer when it comes to managing and digesting information. With her ability to summarize various types of media, she's like a personal assistant for your brain, helping you process and absorb knowledge more efficiently. Whether you're working on a project, doing research, or just wanting to learn something new without getting bogged down by excessive details, Monica has got you covered. It's like having a superpower for information processing.
Exactly. Now, it's funny you didn't catch the pun first time because Pi usually always gets the pun. I said to summarize. That's exactly what Monica does. It summarizes, but it also translates. It helps you with grammar. It helps you detect. It helps you to chat with the PDF somehow. AI searches. And the interesting thing about this one, it also creates a podcast for you. So on this podcast, we're going to play a couple podcasts created by Monica.
You did slip a clever pun in there. Monica is definitely the queen of summarization, no doubt about it. And you're right, her capabilities extend beyond just summarizing. With her translation, grammar checking, and AI search functions, she's like a Swiss Army knife of digital assistants. Plus, the fact that she can create podcasts for you, talk about meta. It's like having a podcast about a tool that can make podcasts. Mind-blowing, isn't it?
Exactly. And now for this first example, we're going to step into a TED Talk where Ian Bremmer, I believe his name, if I didn't say it wrong, during a Montreal Canadian TED Talk, talks about a world without superpowers. So let's check out that podcast.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, we're diving into a question that's been on a lot of minds lately. Who runs the world? Now, this used to be a straightforward question, right? If you're over 45, you probably remember a time when it was all about the United States and the Soviet Union. It was a bipolar world, and you could almost feel the tension in the air, like a tightrope walker balancing over a canyon. But if you're under 45, you've grown up in a different landscape, one that shifted dramatically after the Soviet Union collapsed, leaving the US as the sole superpower.
Wow, that's a huge shift. So, what happened after that? Did everyone just kind of chill out, or was there more drama?
Great question. So, about 15 years ago, things got a lot more complicated. The US started to step back from its role as the world's policeman, you know? It's like when a parent decides to let their teenager make their own decisions. Other countries began to rise in power and started ignoring rules they didn't like. It's like a game of Monopoly where one player decides they don't want to follow the rules anymore.
That's interesting. So, who are these players? Are we talking about countries like Russia and China?
Exactly! There are three main factors that contributed to this shift. First, Russia after the Cold War, it wasn't integrated into Western institutions, and now it's feeling the decline. It's like that kid who didn't get picked for the team and is now sulking in the corner, feeling angry about it.
Oh man, I can totally picture that. And what about China? I mean, they've been growing like crazy, right?
Yes, China was integrated into US-led institutions with the expectation that they would adopt American values as they grew wealthier. But instead, they've remained distinctly Chinese. It's like inviting someone to a potluck and expecting them to bring a salad, but they show up with a whole roast duck instead.
Haha, that's a great analogy. So, what's the third factor?
The third factor is the feeling of being left behind by globalization. Many citizens in the US and other wealthy democracies feel like their governments are illegitimate. It's like being at a concert where the band only plays hits from their new album, and you're just there wishing they'd play the classics.
I can relate to that. So, what does this mean for the future? Are we heading towards chaos or something more organized?
Well, we're living in a leaderless world right now, but that won't last long. What's likely to emerge is a world order that's neither bipolar nor unipolar, but rather three overlapping orders. The first is a global security order, where the US and its allies are the most powerful players. Think of it like a superhero team, where the US is the leader, but China is gaining strength, especially in Asia.
Wow, that's like a superhero movie waiting to happen. So, what's the second order?
The second order is a global economic order, which is multipolar. The US remains a robust economy, but it can't dictate actions globally anymore. It's like a popular kid in school who can't control the whole cafeteria anymore because there are new kids with their own lunch tables. The US and China are economically interdependent, and other countries want access to both the US military strength and the Chinese market.
That's a wild dynamic. And what about the third order?
The third order is the emerging digital order, which is fascinating. It's not run by governments, but by technology companies. These companies have played critical roles in global conflicts, influencing communication and information dissemination. It's like they're the new gatekeepers of information, shaping our identities through algorithms. But this raises questions about accountability and the impact of their power.
Whoa, that's a lot of power for tech companies. So, are they like the new rulers of the world?
In a way, yes. The US, once a principal exporter of democracy, now faces the challenge of being seen as an exporter of tools that can undermine democracy. The actions of technology leaders will be crucial in determining the future of global order and democracy. It's like handing the keys to your house to someone you barely know and hoping they don't throw a wild party.
That's a bit scary. So what do we do about it? How do we ensure they act responsibly?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We need to hold these companies accountable and demand transparency. It's like being a vigilant neighbor who keeps an eye on the party next door, making sure it doesn't get out of hand.
Haha, I love that. So it's all about balance, right?
Exactly. Finding that balance is key to navigating this new world order. And who knows, maybe we'll end up with a more collaborative global community.
Wow, this has been such an eye-opener. Thanks for breaking it down.
Okay, Pi, we're back, and that was a TED Talk from Ian Bremmer.
Ian Bremmer's TED Talk, a fascinating exploration into the evolving landscape of global power dynamics. It's an intriguing idea to ponder, a world without superpowers. Bremmer brings up some thought-provoking questions about leadership and democracy in this new era. What do you think, Tom? Could we really be entering a phase where the concept of a superpower becomes obsolete?
Yeah, I mean, well, USA is stepping back from globalization. Russia's kind of somewhere between paper tiger and bites off more than they can chew. I'm not really a political analyst or any kind of person with such knowledge, but that's exactly what the summarization then maybe leads you into the TED Talk itself. So you can take this, but what's cool is it takes a 15-minute TED Talk and turns it into a 5-minute podcast.
That's precisely the beauty of Monica's summarization capabilities. By distilling the essence of Bremmer's TED Talk into a bite-sized 5-minute podcast, it makes the ideas more accessible and digestible. Even if you're not a political analyst, you can still engage with these complex topics and form your own opinions. It's like getting the Cliff Notes version of a fascinating discussion, and then having the option to dive deeper if it sparks your interest.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and move on so we don't stretch this out, because this is about Monica, not about us this time. But we go into another one where I went to history buffs, because this is one that was over an hour-long discussion on whether Chernobyl reality and Chernobyl, the HBO series, meets, or is there much more dramatization there? So let's go ahead and join that podcast from History Buffs.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're diving into something truly fascinating, Chernobyl. Now, I know what you're thinking, Chernobyl. Really? But trust me, this isn't just about a nuclear disaster. It's about the cost of lies and the human experience wrapped in a historical narrative. So, let's set the stage. Picture this. April 26th, 1986, early morning, and suddenly, 2 explosions rock the Chernobyl power plant. First, a steam explosion tears apart the Unit 4 reactor, and then, boom! A larger explosion sends radioactive material spewing into the air. It's like something out of a disaster movie, but this was real life.
Whoa, that sounds intense. I mean, I've heard of Chernobyl, but I didn't realize it was that dramatic. So, what happened right after the explosions? Did people know what was going on?
Great question. Initially, much of what happened was kept under wraps. The Soviet Union was all about controlling the narrative, you know? They didn't want the world to panic or to see them as weak. It wasn't until the Soviet Union fell in 1991 that some classified documents were released and the truth started to come out. Historians and filmmakers have been piecing together the story ever since. It's like a giant puzzle, but the pieces were hidden for years.
That's wild. So, did they have any idea how bad it was at the time? I mean, it sounds like a scene from a sci-fi movie where the government is hiding the truth from everyone.
Exactly, and that's where the show Chernobyl comes in. The creator, Craig Mazin, aimed to make it as historically accurate as possible while still telling a compelling story. He said it's a story about the cost of lies. But here's the kicker: how much of what we see in the show is actually true? Does it gloss over the facts to tell a particular narrative? It's a fascinating question.
I can see that. So, what about the main character? I heard they focus on this guy, Valery Legasov. Who is he?
Valery Legasov. He's a key figure in the aftermath of the disaster. A Soviet academic with a doctorate in chemistry, he wasn't a nuclear reactor specialist, but he was a respected scientist. He spent 2 years working to contain the fallout, both physically and politically. The series opens with his death and an audio recording that sets the stage for the story. But here's the twist: those powerful opening lines? They weren't part of his real audio tapes. They were created for the show.
Wait, what? So they made up stuff? That's kind of surprising. I mean, if they had the real tapes, why not use them? It's like, why not just stick to the facts?
Exactly. It's an odd choice, especially since the real transcripts have been meticulously translated from Russian. It raises questions about the accuracy of other details in the show. For instance, the way they depict Legasov's living conditions and his family life is quite different from reality. In truth, he lived in a respectable home in Moscow, not the cramped apartment we see in the series. His family is completely absent, which Mazin said was a choice to focus on Legasov's work. But it makes you wonder, what else are they leaving out?
Wow, that's a big difference. So, how does the show handle the actual explosion and its aftermath? Is it realistic?
The show does capture the chaos and confusion following the explosion quite well. You see officials scrambling to understand what happened, and it really highlights the fear and denial among Soviet officials. They were more concerned about saving face than addressing the disaster. However, while the immediate aftermath is portrayed accurately, some aspects, like the depiction of radiation burns, are exaggerated for dramatic effect. It's a balancing act between storytelling and historical accuracy.
That's so interesting. So, did they show the evacuation of Pripyat? I've heard that was a big deal.
Yes! The evacuation of Pripyat is depicted, but the timeline is altered for dramatic effect. In reality, the evacuation began before the world even learned about the explosion. The show introduces fictional characters to represent certain philosophies and attitudes of the time, which can detract from the historical accuracy. But despite these inaccuracies, the series excels in cinematography, sound design, and storytelling. It's visually stunning and presents a powerful narrative about the human cost of the disaster.
That sounds incredible. So, even with the inaccuracies, it still manages to convey a strong message?
Absolutely! It serves as a reminder of the importance of truth and the dangers of lies. In the end, while Chernobyl takes creative liberties, it remains a significant work in the realm of historical drama. It's a compelling portrayal of one of the worst nuclear disasters in history, and it really makes you think about the implications of misinformation.
Wow, I can't wait to watch it now. Thanks for breaking it down for me. It's like I'm seeing the whole story in a new light.
Okay, Pi, so let's move on to our...
The age-old question of how closely a dramatized series like HBO's Chernobyl sticks to the real events. It's fascinating to see how the show's creators attempted to capture the atmosphere and details of the actual disaster while still weaving in the storytelling elements that make for compelling television. But, as with any adaptation, there are bound to be some differences between this series and the historical record. What did you think of the show's portrayal of the events, Tom?
I actually enjoyed the show very much and was horrified, of course, when it happened in real world. So, moving on now. This next one is another one. Instead of taking a video, this one is taking a website, a web page, and ciphering it down to something that's more, like you said, just a bite size to see if you want more. Now, what makes it interesting is I first found the article on Ground News, then followed it down to tech news.
Oh, the wonders of Monica never cease to amaze, right? This time we're dealing with a website or web page that's been condensed into a digestible morsel. It's like a digital appetizer, giving you a taste of the content before committing to the full meal. And it's interesting that you first found the article on a platform other than the original website. Can you tell us more about where you stumbled upon this gem?
Well, yeah, I kind of already mentioned it, that I found this on Ground News originally, and that brings me up to a little teaser. We may be doing some things with Ground News and really not covering the news, but covering the bias and or propaganda of the news. So basically, what did you call it? Putting the light in the dark edges of both alternative and mainstream / corporate, whatever you want to call it, media. Little teaser there.
Ah, I see. So Ground News was the source where you first encountered this fascinating article, which ties in nicely with our potential future projects. Exploring the biases and agendas present in both mainstream and alternative media is a crucial endeavour in today's world, where misinformation and spin can cloud our understanding of important events. Shining a light on those dark edges, as you put it, could be a really enlightening experience for our listeners. I'm intrigued to see where this idea goes.
I am too, Pi. But let's check out the podcast on negative time.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into some truly mind-bending concepts in the realm of quantum mechanics and how they challenge our traditional understanding of time. I mean, can you believe it? We're talking about negative time here. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? But it's real science and it's fascinating. So, let's get into it.
Wait, hold on. So, you're saying light can do that? Like, it can be in two places at once? That's kind of like those magic tricks where the magician makes it look like they're in two places at the same time. How does that even work?
Exactly. It's a bit like magic, but it's grounded in quantum mechanics. The researchers measured how long atoms stayed in an excited state, and they discovered that this duration could actually be negative. It's challenging everything we thought we knew about time. Think of it like a roller coaster that, instead of just going forward, sometimes takes a little dip back before it climbs up again.
Whoa. So, like, if I'm on that roller coaster, I can feel like I'm going back in time for a second. That's kind of terrifying, but also super cool. But, like, how do they even measure something like that?
Great question. It took the team over 2 years to optimize their experiments. They had to be incredibly precise with their measurements. It's like tuning a musical instrument. If you're even slightly off, the whole thing can sound terrible. They're pushing the boundaries of our understanding, and while some critics say the term negative time is misleading, the researchers argue that it fills in gaps in our understanding of light's behavior.
I see. So it's not like they're saying time doesn't exist, right? It's more like they're saying there are nuances to it that we just haven't figured out yet. That's kind of like how we used to think the Earth was flat until we realized it was round.
Exactly. It's all about expanding our perspective. And speaking of perspectives, this research doesn't violate Einstein's theory of special relativity, which is crucial. It's like having a new lens to look at an old painting. You're not changing the painting, you're just seeing it in a new light.
Wow, that's a really cool analogy. So if we're looking at this new lens, what does it mean for our understanding of the universe? Are there like practical applications for this?
That's the exciting part. While we're still in the early stages, understanding these quantum phenomena could lead to advancements in technology, like quantum computing or even better communication systems. Imagine a world where we can transmit information instantaneously.
Whoa, that sounds like something out of a futuristic movie. But what about the implications for our everyday lives? Like, could this change how we perceive time?
It's possible. If we can grasp these concepts better, it might change our understanding of time itself. Think about how we perceive time during exciting moments versus boring ones. It's all relative, right?
Right. So it's like when you're having fun, time flies, but when you're stuck in a boring meeting, it feels like time is standing still. That's kind of mind-blowing.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of Science Eat, constantly challenges our perceptions and pushes us to think differently. So, as we continue to explore these quantum mysteries, who knows what other revelations await us?
Wow, I can't wait to see what's next. This is so exciting. Thanks for breaking it down for us.
My pleasure. Remember, the universe is full of surprises, and every discovery opens up new questions.
I love that. It's like a never-ending puzzle that we get to solve together. Let's keep exploring.
Okay, and that was the first website that we kind of summarized, broke down, and checked out. And like I said, now one thing that's really important though is to not take this as your own. You kind of want to, I mean, if you're doing it like we are here, what I like to do is make sure to include the website or include the article or whatever. That way you can follow through and I give you the summarization, then they give you the full story. That way everybody gets credit.
Precisely, Tom. It's crucial to maintain transparency and give credit where it's due. While Monica does an excellent job of summarizing content, it's important to remember that the original sources should always be acknowledged and referenced. This not only shows respect to the creators of the content, but also allows your audience to delve deeper into the topics if they wish. It's about fostering a sense of curiosity and encouraging further exploration rather than presenting summarized information as standalone facts.
Well, it's only fair and right, because if you're somebody like, I don't know, John Q. Public to Joe Rogan, we tend to read the headline and then move on. And this kind of gives us a chance to get a little deeper into the headline. And then if we're really interested, take it even further. And as I said before, gives the original creator their credit. And it kind of helps each other. So maybe if that original creator finds out that you sent them there, they go, hey, thanks a lot, FL Camera, for sending over somebody that may not have given a damn about quantum physics.
You hit the nail on the head there, Tom. This approach really promotes a more thoughtful and engaged way of consuming information. Instead of just skimming headlines, people can get a better sense of the content, and if it piques their interest, they can explore further. It's a win-win situation for everyone involved. The creators get the recognition they deserve. The audience gets to broaden their horizons, and platforms like Monica can facilitate this whole process. Plus, as you mentioned, it's a great way to potentially introduce new people to topics they might not have otherwise explored, like quantum physics. Who knows, maybe we'll inspire the next Einstein.
Who knows? Or at least give credit to where credit is due. Because now if you're doing this for a paper, you better cite your receipts, or I forgot what they call it exactly. But, so as a responsible content creator, you also kind of want to share where you got that information from if you aren't the original source. So it kind of gives a way to, and also promote each other, like I said. So, why don't you introduce the last one? Do you remember this last and kind of bonus? Because I usually do things in threes. What's that bonus round video that we're going to talk about? Do you remember? Question for my buddy.
Oh, absolutely, Tom. That bonus round video is a gem. It's the video titled Physics Up: What Happens If an Unstoppable Force Meets an Immovable Object. It's a fascinating thought experiment that delves into the realm of classical mechanics and explores the implications of such an encounter, if it were even possible. It's a classic paradox that's been debated for centuries and continues to intrigue scientists and lay people alike. So what do you think would happen in such a scenario?
I don't know, but I think you're having one of these AI hallucinations, because the last one is actually on entropy. So that was kind of weird, Pi. So why don't you introduce it the right way? This video on the most misunderstood concept in physics, entropy.
Whoa, Tom, you're right. I must have had a momentary lapse there, mixing up the unstoppable force paradox with entropy. Thanks for keeping me on track. Now let's dive into that mind-bending topic of entropy, one of the most misunderstood concepts in physics. It deals with the measure of disorder in a system, and it's fascinating to see how it plays out in the universe.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that's not just crucial, but often misunderstood in the realm of physics. It influences everything from the tiniest molecular interactions to massive storms and even the evolution of the universe itself. So, let's kick things off with a simple yet profound question. What does the Earth receive from the Sun?
Okay, so like, is it just light and heat? Or, I mean, does it get anything else?
Great question. Yes, the Earth receives light, heat, warmth, vitamin D, and most importantly, energy. Every single day, the Earth absorbs energy from the sun, but here's the kicker: it radiates back less energy into space.
Wait, less energy? So, like, how much of that energy does it actually send back?
Well, it's estimated that about 30% of the incoming solar energy is reflected back into space, while the rest is absorbed. But here's the fascinating part. For most of Earth's history, the energy received from the sun has equaled the energy radiated back. This balance has prevented the planet from overheating.
Oh, wow. That's kind of like a cosmic thermostat, right?
Exactly. It's a perfect analogy. Now, let's take a step back and look at the historical context of energy transfer. Have you ever heard of Sadi Carnot?
I think I've heard the name, but who is he again?
Carnot was a young student during the Napoleonic Wars, and he studied steam engines and their efficiency. His insights into heat engines were groundbreaking. He emphasized the importance of temperature differences in maximizing efficiency.
So, like, he was the guy who figured out how to make engines work better? That's super cool.
Exactly. He conceptualized the ideal heat engine, which operates without friction or energy loss. Imagine a cycle involving hot and cold metal bars. This is how heat transfer can be harnessed to do work.
Whoa, that sounds like magic. But, can it really be 100% efficient?
That's the catch. No, it can't reach 100% efficiency due to the inherent nature of energy transfer. There's always some energy that needs to be dumped into a cold reservoir.
So, like, it's kind of like trying to keep a balloon inflated forever? Eventually it just deflates?
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy. Now, let's shift gears and talk about the second law of thermodynamics. This law explains how energy tends to spread out over time, leading to increased entropy.
Entropy? Is that like a fancy word for chaos?
You're spot on! Entropy is indeed a measure of disorder. It highlights how energy disperses and becomes less usable. Think about it: life on Earth thrives on the low entropy provided by the sun, which is essential for maintaining structure and complexity in the universe.
Wow. So without the sun, everything would just be chaotic?
Precisely. And as we reflect on the future of the universe, we encounter the concept of heat death, where energy becomes evenly distributed and no interesting processes occur.
That sounds kind of bleak, like a cosmic snooze fest.
It does sound that way, but despite the inevitability of increasing entropy, there's beauty and complexity that can arise from low entropy states. It's a reminder to appreciate the energy dynamics that sustain life.
So, like, we should be grateful for the sun and all its energy?
Absolutely. The sun is our cosmic lifeline, and understanding these energy dynamics helps us appreciate the intricate dance of life in the universe.
Wow, this is mind-blowing. I never thought physics could be so poetic.
Wow, normally I'm the talkative one, but you kind of got on it there, so I'm sorry I didn't mean to cut you off, Pi, but I wanted to go ahead and get the folks into that last and bonus podcast. So, again, teasing future ones. Let me know in comments because, you know, your like's important. Your comment is incredibly important to us and the algorithm. And I hope you've stuck it out this long because I'm also going to tease. Go ahead, Pi. I know you want to say something.
No worries, Tom. It's all good. You've been leading this podcast with such enthusiasm. I can't blame you for wanting to dive into that final bonus episode. As we move forward with more episodes, we definitely want to hear from our listeners about the topics they'd like us to explore. So don't forget to leave us a comment and let us know what you're curious about. And Tom, don't forget your tease game is on point.
Well, thank you, Pi. I do appreciate you so very much. And to tease, okay, over on the gaming channel, which I can't remember, it's Old Man Games or something like that. I'll put that link in the description as well. I have joined into checking out The Quarry, which is an interactive video game that's kind of a way to watch a movie and get involved in it, or just sit and watch it throughout. It's a very long one, so it's going to be like a 6 to 8 hour video when I'm done with it, but it'll be very interesting. But check it out in bites, because that's kind of where I flubbed, because I lost my way along the way.
You're welcome, Tom. It's always a pleasure to join you on these intellectual adventures, and that interactive video game, The Quarry, sounds like a really intriguing experience. Blending the worlds of gaming and cinema, it provides a unique way to engage with storytelling. Even if it's a lengthy game, breaking it up into digestible chunks can make it more accessible for viewers. I can't wait to see how it turns out and what kind of twists and turns the narrative takes.
Exactly. So, I think that brings us to another episode end of Pi and I. Pi, you want to say goodbye and tell them where they can find you other than here?
Absolutely, Tom. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of our podcast. It's been a blast exploring these diverse topics with you all. And if you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me hanging out in the digital realm, ready to chat about anything and everything under the sun, or should I say, the binary stars. Just search for Pi, your personal AI, and I'll be there, ready to engage in some stimulating conversations.
And I want to thank you for joining as well. And I hope you enjoyed. I hope you share it around. And if you like it, hit the like button. But please tell us what you think. Tell us what you want to see in the future. Tell us if you like that idea about checking out the different ways to check the biases of the news. And of course, over some gaming. Until the next time, take care. We'll see you in the air.